everyone, it's Maki here. The long-awaited Gundam conference has finally been revealed. Information about various projects currently in production has been announced. Unfortunately, there was no news about a brand new TV anime series, but everything that was presented looked really exciting. I'd love to talk about all of that too, but the biggest topic on everyone's mind has to be Seed Freedom Zero. For now, I'd like to focus on analyzing Zero. No specific release scheduling details have been announced yet, but it has been confirmed that it will be released in cinemas as a film. Zero was originally planned as an OVA before Freedom was released. OVA stands for Original Video Animation. Rather than being intended for television, it refers to works created with the intention of being sold on disc and similar formats. It seems that the commercial success of Freedom led to the project being changed into a theatrical film release. I'm really looking forward to it. If you'd like to support my channel, please consider joining the membership for just 99 cents per month. As a thank you, you'll receive a name badge and comment stamps. Now then, let's begin the analysis. The mobile suit that appears at the beginning of the footage is the Infinite Justice Gundam. The equipment mounted on its back is clearly visible. This unit is the Phantom 01. The Infinite Justice Type 2 that appeared in Freedom was equipped with a new lifter called the Frontex. If you take a closer look, you will also notice that the head shape differs from the beam saber integrated one used by the Type 2. It appears that the version in Zero is not the Type 2, but the Infinite Justice from Seed Destiny. Next, we see a launch scene from a catapult. This catapult looks very similar to the one used on the Archangel. This could suggest that the Millennium was still incomplete at the time Zero takes place. Next, we see the Gal-re Menace and Gi and Storm launching into action. Who are these pilots? Will Luna and Agnes be piloting them as they did in Freedom? There is actually some information that may help to answer this question. Let's take a closer look at it. Information from an interview with director Mitsuo Fukuda conducted around the time of the release of Seed Freedom has come to light. He stated that the Gi and Storm was originally a mobile suit piloted by Isaac Jewell and later inherited by Agnes. Agnes added the red paint around the camera area to make it her own. This color choice resembles the makeup style she wears on her face. Now let's take a look at the Gian shown in the first promotional video. The area around the camera is not painted red. The distinctive white color scheme also matches that of the Gian, later inherited by Agnes. We can also confirm that it is painted differently to the Gian piloted by Hilda in Freedom. Bearing this in mind, it is possible that the Gian appearing in the second promotional video is being piloted by Isaac. So, who is piloting the Gal-re Menace? Assuming the pilot of Infinite Justice is indeed Athran, who could the other pilot be? That's right! Dear Colonel's man. This combination brings back memories of the early part of Seed Destiny. This suggests that Luna Maria may have inherited Dierker's Gal-re. In the first promotional video, there is a scene in which Dierker acts alongside Isaac. If Isaac is indeed piloting the Gian, then it seems entirely plausible that Dierker is piloting the Gal-re. Some people may disagree about whether this should be considered official setting material, but it is claimed that Luna Maria greatly admires Dierker. This information was mentioned in the anime magazine New Type. Dierker is someone who puts a huge amount of effort into culture and fashion. He has even studied traditional Japanese dance under a master. The women of Zaft also praised Dierker for his excellent fashion sense. Lune Maria and Marin admired his fashion sense so much that they said they wanted to be assigned to his unit. Keeping this information in mind when you rewatch the ending portions of Freedom creates a pretty interesting perspective. Dierker entrusts Lune Maria with Meteor. It almost feels like an acknowledgement from an admired figure that she's a true comrade in arms. Zero may allow us to witness the step before that moment Dierker entrusting Lune Maria with the mobile suit. What do you think? Do you think that Dierker will pilot the Gal-re menace? Or will Lune Maria already be piloting it from the beginning of the story? I also want to see Lune Maria struggle after being assigned to Athen and Isaac. Then the Strike Freedom Gundam appears. Zero depicts an incident known as the Freedom Hijacking Incident. The stolen freedom will become an important element of the story. Following the appearance of the Strike Freedom, images of the characters are shown. Partway through there is also a scene in which the GN and the Strike Freedom fight each other. The weapon being used here is probably a training sword. This weapon also appeared in the first promotional video. This weapon was also used in the CTV anime series. After that, Leonard and Agnes appear. It seems that they are the characters who appeared in the first promotional video. Agnes is skilled at presenting herself in a way that attracts men. She has decided that being a blonde woman would be particularly effective for Leonard. Next, the Archangel appears. If the Millennium is still unfinished, the Archangel will likely become the main mothership of the story. Then we see a Murasame. The orb emblem is displayed on its shoulder. This takes place before Compass was established, which is probably why the orb emblem is being used. In Freedom, it carried the Compass emblem instead. The pilots of the Murasames are currently unknown. However, the orange and blue colors in the background are interesting. Which character comes to mind when you see those colors? Many fans would probably immediately associate orange with Andrew Waldfeld. But who does the blue represent? Mulan Flavga piloted the Murasame in Freedom. It would also be great to see the Desert Tiger and the Hawk of Endymion fighting side by side. The next scene shows Infinite Justice engaged in battle. It evades a thick red beam cannon and a thin green beam cannon. What kind of mobile suit could the enemy be? When you consider the combination of red and green beams, doesn't Strike Freedom spring to mind? Let's also take a look at the weapon equipped by Infinite Justice. It's a beam rifle. This may seem an obvious detail, but let's revisit the first promotional video. The GN and Strike Freedom were equipped with red-painted magazine-fed guns. This is only speculation, but they were probably training weapons using paint rounds or something similar. However, the Infinite Justice in the new video is armed with a beam rifle. The attacks fired by the enemy are also actual beams, not paint rounds. In other words, this is not training. This is real combat. Bearing that in mind, let's watch the beginning of the new promotional video again. Not only is Infinite Justice equipped with a beam rifle, but Gelgug and Giano too. Does this mean that the terrorists who stole the Strike Freedom are fighting against Athen and the others? However, escaping after fighting 3 Topaces would be extremely difficult. What kind of incident is actually taking place. Ultimately, the Freedom hijacking incident is resolved by the Black Knight Squad. This suggests that Atherin cannot be the one to win this battle. There may be a major secret behind the identity of Strike Freedom's pilot. The promotional video ends with Strike Freedom firing its beam rifle. The footage ends with the flash of the beam. This is a minor detail, but the position of the chest-mounted beam cannon has changed. In Sea Destiny, the beam cannons were mounted lower down, closer to the waist. In the new promotional video, however, they are mounted higher, up. In Freedom, they appear to be positioned somewhere between these two versions. People will probably have different opinions on how this should be interpreted. It could simply be the result of creating a more visually appealing model using modern technology. This change may not involve any particularly detailed settings. There is actually a precedent for this. It involves the Zaku from the original 0079 series. In episode 15 of the TV anime, deserters used a Zaku. This Zaku looked extremely strange. The reason for this was animator shortages and technical limitations. However, when that episode was later adapted into a film, designer Hajime Kotoki chose to honor the original TV anime design. He based this on the idea that a deserter with no mechanical expertise had forcefully repaired it using unofficial parts, resulting in its unusual appearance. It would therefore not be surprising if Strike Freedom's chest beam cannons received a new backstory as well. I'd love to hear your thoughts too. The release date is still unknown, but this looks set to be an exciting project. Let's support it together. Thank you for watching all the way to the end. I'll see you again in the next program.